Welcome to Credentialing Chronicles, where we spill the doctor's tea, honey, hotter than your morning coffee.
And we're spilling it across America, state by state and license by license.
Ooh, I'm Shannon, and honey, she is Nylene, and we are just a couple of sassy credentialing pros with front row seats to all this crazy chaos.
Yes, from coast to coast, fraud scandals to hospital drama they hoped you'd never find.
Yeah, but we find it, girl. So grab your coffee, your compliance checklist, and what, Nylene?
And let's get into it.
Hell yeah. Well, Nylene and Shannon sitting there talking about you while you pull up a chair. They holding everything.
And we are back. All right. Credentialing Chronicles, the official, the certified tea sippers. Y'all, if y'all could come to the front of the class of the podcast community. Oh, honey, because we are going to spill the tea today. We're doing something a little different today. I know we are officially, me and Eileen have officially decided to pause spilling the tea across America. Not because, we ran out of stories, honey, because Nylene got them packed up. Murder case mysteries, every state. She's got them lined up. She's got hashtags out for them, and she's spilling the tea on the murder. But things are just going crazy. What's coming out right now is bigger than gossip. It has a lot of people questioning things. I mean, Nylene, right? We were talking about it. What are we thinking?
Yeah, because what happens is documentation is surfacing, right? Emails, correspondence, professional records, and that's where credentialing lives. You all know everyone in credentialing talks, all about the documents, right?
Yes, CYA, that's what we say. And we want to be very clear before we go any further. There is a word that I have to say through the entire episode. This is alleged. What am I saying? What do I have to say, Nali?
Everything is allegedly. We are not accusing anyone of anything. Everything is alleged. None of this is not verified information. This is allegedly.
So we will be saying allegedly all episode, hashtag allegedly. But we want to be very clear. This episode is not about making criminal accusations. It is not speculation. It is not social media rumor culture. We are not about that. That is not our platform. This is about records and documents, because this is something that credentialing people deal with every day. Right? I mean, Eileen, we talked about this,
Yep. Names appearing in released materials, emails, professional proximity, and the ethical question really that follows is especially when medicine interacts with power.
I mean, because it's so big, you guys. We are both mothers. We're both women. We were both little girls, and we're taking a deep dive into the doctors whose names and communications are appearing in released Department of Justice material connected to, Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, I just don't even want to say the monster's name, right? We're doing this through a credentialing lens, okay? This is allegedly. I'm just going to put that out there. It's all allegedly, because that's what we do. We put everything through our credentialing lens, but allegedly, Nylene.
Yeah, so let's ground this first, because this is where people get confused. These released materials include email correspondence, scheduling communications, funding discussions, professional interactions, and a name appearing in this information does not equate with guilt. So again, we're putting that all out there. We're not accusing anybody of anything. This is all allegedly.
And allegedly, when you write an email, allegedly you write the email, you write in what you mean, so again, but this is important, because documentation creates ethical questions. And that's what we're talking about in this episode, even when it doesn't create criminal charges, right? And so I think that's one of the reasons, why so many Americans, because we're seeing it system wide, it's everywhere, it's touching everything, right? And credentialing is built to ask, what is disclosed, what is documented, and what never makes it onto a credentialing application, because that's what MSPs are always, we read between the lines, Nylene, right?
Yes, and I think this is a great opportunity to really highlight a special area that credentialers kind of have to know about in their gut. And it's really interesting. So credentialing really relies on reportable events like license actions, board discipline, sanctions, malpractice. But what about ethics? What about behaviors? And honestly, that really does live in the gray zone, right? We talked about doctors with like funny email addresses, and that's not something that it's something that we joke about, but it's something really that tells us so much about a practitioner. And so these are the types of flags that we can feel, or the way a doctor answers. It's a lot of things that live in our gut zone.
And, so let's talk about it. For our patients, we talk about, TJC, the Joint Commission. I will let you know that I love the Joint Commission for one thing in credentialing. And it's the fact that they require that you do the peer reference process. And I feel as strong that NCQA should require people to do the peer reference process, because that's what Nylene is talking about, that gray zone. How do you find who a person is if you're not actually asking somebody? And when you do a peer reference, what that means is you have to give me a doctor or somebody of your level or greater that tells me that I can ask questions to that say, hey, does this person know what they're doing? Is this person nice in the OR? Is this person clinically competent? These are questions that you want to know. And nobody requires the peer reference process except the Joint Commission. And thank you for that. Please never take it away. So, let's just pause there, because, really what we're talking about when people ask, how did this go on so long? It's literally what we ask in every episode, right, Nylene? The answer is really what? What do we say in every episode?
People ask all the time, right? Wait a minute, let me just pause 1 second, because I just want to correct something, because peer references, I want to go back to peer references real quick. I just passed my DMV survey with the hospital. So other surveyors do look for peer references. They just have different requirements for them. So NCQA, like you said, does not, but DNB requires peer references, and other accreditors. Yeah, other accreditors do require, HHC, all of them, they do require other peer references. But we do want to keep track of that. So that was a really good point. And it should be part of our process, and we should be getting more than one. So let's just go there. But anyway, yes. So we ask as credentialers, is it a systemic problem? Is it just someone being quiet? Somebody protecting somebody else? Is it prestige because who I know can protect me? And credentialing is often the last gatekeeper before the doctor gets to treat someone, because they've already been given a contract, or they're already, practicing. But technically, it's only if there's something to catch, right? It's not documenting it, and it's not disclosed information. And if there's no board action and everything is clean, right? It technically doesn't exist in the file. How do you annotate or document? Oh, I got this really gut feeling because the doctor said XYZ, right?
Yeah, and that's that gray line. It doesn't mean it didn't happen, but it's how do you write that down? And the system really wasn't built to see what your gut says, right? When you look at it, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But again, that's why peer references, I believe, are such a great, addition to a credentialing file, and NCQA should require them, because, to be honest, it allows you to kind of look at that personal, portion of the doctor,
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about some of the doctors that were found in the files. Allegedly.
This is all allegedly. Yeah, now we're going to start talking about the allegedlations.
So we got this doctor he has an active license to practice in California. It's clear, unrestricted. There are no board actions on this physician. He's had licenses to practice in 3 states. I did do the research. And he's a neurologist whose name appears in released materials and reported correspondence connected to Epstein. What is his documented? Well, his name appears in the DOJ released records. His reports describe years of correspondence. But Shannon, what is not documented?
Yeah, so no criminal charges are documented. There's no public findings or wrongdoing, so you can't go on and find that. There's no allegations that he participated in any abuse. And so, what's the credentialing question when we kind of look at this, right? There's emails that are attributed to this doctor. He's a neurologist and have been described in reporting as discussing neurological research concepts involving infant behavior and learning. Now, while the language reported is clinical and research based, and that's not criminal, right, you all? It has raised public concern, to be honest, because of who the correspondence was with and the lack of ethical distance between these people. And the other person, as we all know, is a known predator. I mean, I have no other word to say it. There are no criminal allegations against this provider out of California. The credentialing question here is not criminal guilt. It's purely what we're asking is professional judgment, boundaries, right, Nylene? Throw maybe some institutional oversight.
Exactly. And so, like I said, he has a current license in California. He did practice in New York and Massachusetts.
The three big ones.
Yeah. And obviously all of this is thanks to Baton. Thank you, Baton, for making all of these resources available to us and being such an amazing resource to MSPs.
And that is not allegedly. Everything else is allegedly.
That is not allegedly. So let's talk about professional boundaries. When a physician, especially an academic physician,
Allegedly. It's just so bad that we have to keep saying this, you guys. I'm sorry, and we laughing, but it's just so bad. I'm sorry, allegedly.
So, especially an academic physician, when maintains a prolonged professional contact with a convicted sex offender, that raises question of judgment and oversight. So we could do that. Then a UCLA professor told the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, whose charity gave him a $100,000 check in 2017, that he would see, quote unquote, whether students were, quote unquote, cute, according to the Justice Department documents.
Allegedly.
This physician, an associate adjunct professor of neurology, corresponded with Epstein via email at least semi-regularly between 2010 and 2019. So this is an ongoing 9-year relationship. That year, Epstein dies by suicide, according to the files released Friday. The latest batch included more than 3 million new documents, some of which detailed Epstein's communications with this physician. Appearing in the documents, technically, like we said, does not imply criminal wrongdoing. It's just exposing an area that
Allegedly.
we need to talk about, right? So we do know several people mentioned in previous releases have denied, right, wrongdoing related to anything having to do with Epstein. And I do think that the majority of people mentioned in the Epstein files are saying, oh, that wasn't me. I don't know how you got your name, but apparently they're all saying it wasn't me. I didn't know anything. I wasn't involved. But the files did reveal a check in 2017 for $100,000 from Gratitude America Limited, which is one of Epstein's charities, to the research institution of this physician. So I'm just saying, what do you think about that?
Here's the uncomfortable part. Universities often prioritize reputation management over transparency. And we see that over and over again, right? Credentialing files don't ask, were you professionally adjacent to powerful people later exposed for sexual abuse, systemic abuse, Medicaid fraud? I mean, I wish there was a disclosure question that had something like that.
Goodness, that's a good one.
I mean, we should maybe, see if we can, petition for a new one. But they do ask any license actions, any sanctions. And even when language is clinical, context matters, correct?
True.
When professionals maintain long-term And Nylene said 9 years, you all. I mean, if I know you 9 years and we communicating frequently, I mean, that's what these emails are. There are thousands, you know.
And we're vetting who's cute and who's not. And what's the age of these people who are cute and who are not? I don't know.
In the classroom, but okay. So let's talk. I mean, it's just credentialing systems really capture the ethical risk, right? Only the legal one. And I think when we think about it, there is, in my CVO, we have a face sheet that accompanies every file that leaves our system. And it says, do you recommend it? And so the person that's doing like the final audit, they're kind of trained to look over everything. And if it is so egregious, just so ridiculous, and it's like, would you let your family see this person? Well, then you check, no, and that's really, that's kind of what we put there as like a risk kind of point, like that ethical, because of course the client can do whatever they want, but it's like, do you want to know if I felt icky,
Right, exactly. So Shannon, what's another story?
Yeah, I guess let's talk about another doctor again. This doctor is a physician. He's in the space of longevity, which means keeping people alive for longer, right? I mean, I think so. His name appears in release correspondence, and he has publicly acknowledged and apologized for emails that surface. Now, while the first provider that Nylene mentioned has, still not really came out and apologized and things of that nature, this provider has. And that matters because public acknowledgement, right? It changes the it changes the conversation. What do you think, Nylene?
Yeah, no, it surely matters because, wow, you came out and said something. So friendly correspondence. So the files contain emails where this doctor and Epstein discussed health, aging, and scheduled meetings at Epstein's home. Then the withdrawal comment, 2016 email to an Epstein assistant, the doctor wrote, I go into JE withdrawal when I don't see him. JE meaning Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, so wow, you really love something. Okay. He used crude language, so he acknowledged sending embarrassing, tasteless, and indefensible emails, including a 2016 exchange where he made a crude joke about a female body part and dieting. Knowledge and lifestyle. In 2015, he wrote to Epstein, the life you lead is so outrageous, and yet I can't tell a soul. So that means you are aware of what he was doing.
And how outrageous it was.
Yeah. And so then does that mean the acknowledgement that it's happening makes you a accomplice to saying that that's okay, that behavior, that you not only encourage that behavior, but that you think it's okay and you are lauding it or you're jealous of it because you are not living that extraordinary or that extravagant lifestyle.
And that's what the doctor's telling JE. But no criminal charges, right? This is allegedly.
No.
Allegedly. This is allegedly, y'all. So why are we talking about it if it's so allegedly, right? Because this case exposes something important. The wellness and longevity space has tiny little bit of oversight.
Yeah, because there's no billing for that. There's no billing. It's all cash pay. It's cash money.
Cash money, baby. Like plastic surgery. I mean, plastic surgery has more because CMS and everybody is over it.
Yes,
yeah,
correct.
But when we're talking boobies, or maybe not boobies because of mastectomy, but we're talking about lipo.
Yeah, stem cells. You're talking about stem cells. You're talking about certain vitamins, certain things that people are putting in their bodies. Yes. Supplements, health and wellness, infusion medicine. There's a lot of different things in health and wellness now, regenerative medicine. All of that is self-pay. Exosomes.
So that you get your license and you just out there and there's no baseline to,
So this doctor's response and defense in February of 2026, this week, he published a statement on X, which was formerly Twitter, expressing that he was, quote unquote, ashamed of his exchanges, obviously now because it's public.
Because it's public.
Right. So now he denied participating in any of Epstein's illegal activities, stating that he actually never visited Epstein's private islands. But my question is, then how are you aware of what he was doing?
How were you aware? It was so outrageous. You can't tell us so. You're so jealous. It don't make no sense.
No. And then he claimed that he had met Epstein in 2014 through like a prominent female healthcare leader while fundraising for research, and was incredibly naive about the extent of his crimes, having believed that the 2008 conviction was only for prostitution, because apparently that's a minor crime.
Yeah, but it was like prostitution with a minor or something. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, well, apparently they don't think it's a big deal.
No, because this is all allegedly. I mean, our own government doesn't want to look into it. They don't want anything to do with it. Credentialing, often doesn't touch these areas. Advisory roles, informal consults, privately funded initiatives. So the question becomes, should they? Should this be something as a disclosure question?
Right. What charities are you benefiting? Where is your money going? Who are you supporting? I don't know. I don't know that we can track that. I don't know that doctors are going to say it's any of our business as credentialing. They're not going to say, is that part of my credentialing files? That's what they're going to say.
Yeah. But look what happens on the back end of that, when they say that. So that's,
Girl, and there's more doctors on these files? Tell me about another one. I can't believe there's more. How many doctors are in these Epstein files?
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of doctors that have a lot of things that are happening. I mean, the next one is a physician researcher. So he came in, he has emails describing research proposals, genetic testing initiatives where Epstein appears as a funder or, a subject. And so this is stuff where, again, these are allegedly, right? But there is a lot of information in these files about, having different children, breeding different people. So, I mean, there are no allegations of criminal conduct, right? Nylene, what are you thinking? I mean, no reported misconduct.
Wait, so we go back into ethics. It's such a shady thing. And we have organizations where we have ethics departments and ethic compliance things. So who's funding the research, and what is the purpose of that research, and who controls the data and who benefits from that data? So what are we talking about? And like the physicians in charge of this research and this data, what is the purpose that they're using it for? Who are they using it against? And who is funding this?
Yeah, who are they using it against is the question. It's like, some of the things that you research, like, how can you make it so every baby's born with blue eyes? You're just like, what? Like, I mean, why is that something that needs to be researched? Like, that don't even make any sense.
I know, but we do have like conflicts of interest. So at a hospital, surgery center, it doesn't matter. We don't oversee IRBs, but many facilities do require like disclosure of ownerships or research funding sources, external affiliations. Yes, conflicts of interest. And it only matters if you disclose them.
Yeah, because
who's going to know?
How do we verify
Are they going to know?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's another doctor, psychiatry. This doctor name appears in records involving psychiatric care. Oh my God, Nylene. Arranged and paid for by Epstein regarding a young woman victim.
Oh my goodness. So again, another ethical question, not an accusation, all allegedly.
Allegedly.
But okay, so who's directing the care? Who's paying for the care? What information is being shared? And with whom? If I'm paying for the care, does that mean that I automatically have access to the medical records?
Yes.
Right? So documents released by the federal government show that the notorious sex criminal was in correspondence for 2 years from 2015 to 2017 with this physician, which was and is a nationally prominent psychiatrist and consultant with private practices out in Portland. The documents suggest the two men had at least some familiarity towards the beginning of 2015. email exchange, for example, the doctor thanks Epstein for his hospitality. And he said, "I found the time spent with you to be enjoyable and fascinating." Interesting. Conti writes in over several subsequent emails, the two discuss whether the doctor might treat a female friend of Epstein's. So he's getting these doctors in their pocket, and he is going across multiple specialties to see how he can treat and help people who Epstein wants him to treat or help. I don't know. Have you had anybody pay for your health care?
No, but when you're, when you got people under full control, that's something that you do wind up paying for, I've heard. Emails reviewed by the Department of Justice. We're talking troves, 3 million documents. It's just hard to even imagine, if you're in a room and documents start to spill on you one by one. Well, you're going to be there a long time to feel 3 million spill on you. Like, that is a lot of documents, it's a lot. And you give no indication that the doctor did anything but, socialize with Epstein and then taking sizable payments from him. Sizable now. Like, if you go see a psychiatrist, Medicare is going to pay what? $100? You know what I'm saying?
I don't even know what the reimbursement is. Let's say 200. Let's just say 200, which I don't think that's the case.
I think it's a little high, but okay. But I'm saying, okay, $200. They're talking sizable. So we're talking thousands. You know what I'm saying? And then it was to provide psychiatric care to help a woman that had been, we don't even know. The emails established this doctor among a growing list of prominent figures with links to the notorious sexual predator. This doctor sought comment, the people from the agency, I think it was like WW News or something, sought to get comment from the doctor on Tuesday and spoke to him by phone Wednesday. So he's literally talked. And this is what he said.
Oh, these doctors are getting blown up. They're getting blown up.
Yes. It says, this is literally quotation. I literally can use these legitimately right now. "I met Mr. Epstein and I took care of someone," end quote. And that's it. He said, "I provided medical care to someone and I don't regret that. I met all sorts of people and sometimes it results in me providing medical care for someone who's in need."
That's pretty interesting because it's such a gray area, like you said, because there's a lot of healthcare facilities that treat celebrities or treat families of celebrities. And is it truly the doctor's responsibility to know who that woman was? He could have lied to the doctor and said it's his daughter or his cousin or his sister or his friend.
Okay, but let's put something out there. Okay, let's be realistic. Every doctor is a mandated reporter. And so if somebody is coming to you with, what things have been done to people that are coming out in these files, he is responsible for reporting. And he didn't.
Right. Again, you're protected by patient doctor confidentiality, even if you are a reporter. And if the patient did not report anything, then technically he didn't have to report. I'm just playing both sides of the story. I'm just advocating for both sides.
I get it.
Because the doctor says, look, I'm a doctor. I'm just trying to help people. He said, I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not doing anything inappropriate to anyone. And I stand by that. So he's just saying, I'm practicing medicine. I have a clear license. Like, leave me alone. But why are you in the files? Anyway, subsequently, in an email statement, the doctor goes, I met a woman with high levels of distress through this doctor. I became her doctor in 2015, approaching her through the lens of trauma and empowerment. Epstein stopped paying for her care, and then he treated her pro bono across the years. Apparently, he's still her doctor, and she asks that her privacy be respected. So, we just have to be careful too of what we're doing allegedly, of course, of what we're doing allegedly. And I'm just saying there is another side to the story. And these doctors that are mentioned, it could be they just got tousled in with the wrong person or tied up with somebody,
Yeah, I mean, the doctor didn't follow up, didn't respond to any follow up questions that this news outlet out in Portland had. Epstein, the subject of endless conspiracy theories, which are now all proving to be true. His crimes, the startling abundance, you all, for of his connections to the rich and the famous are it's just so much. He was convicted in 2018 of soliciting a minor for prostitution. It was not just for prostitution, and was eventually arrested in 2019 on charges of sex trafficking, you all, numerous minors. Officials determined he died by suicide in a New York jail soon after. Again, that's even up for debate. So many of the doctor's emails to Epstein in the Department of Justice, files, include his office signature in the signature line, listing a Portland address. I just know he's a prominent doctor in Portland and nationwide. And it's just a really a situation that really makes you question a lot, right?
Yeah. So again, this doctor, you said he's very well known. And then after his email exchanges began in 2015, there was another medical figure, another doctor involved, an influencer who faces his own wave of scrutiny in recent days over lewd emails he exchanged with Epstein. I'm like, I just can't. All these doctors are getting in bed with this. I can't even. And so this other doctor was simply facilitating a connection with these two doctors, and then he says, oh, I have another friend you can possibly help. Then there's like timestamps. I mean, all of it is just too much. And then they all talk about this such enjoyable time being spent with Epstein. It's just hospitality. And this is like this gray line. Like, what does that actually mean? I don't know. So Epstein responds with an email that, of course, is heavily redacted in these files, offering details about the woman, the patient in this case. And then there's, of course, grammatical errors. And I gave her the name, and she's a woman, how much she weighs, what medication she's on, what symptoms she has. And then he ends with a bill me, of course. It's just so shady. I don't know. I don't like that. That sounds kind of...
I don't know either. I mean, he responds that he indeed received an email from the woman and would get in touch with her to set up an appointment when he's back in New York. He then writes to Epstein that he appreciates Epstein's trust and will take the best care of her that he can possibly. So, I mean, again, it just feels icky. And when we're talking about, icky, you just can, I mean, $1,500, you all, for a 90-minute appointment during intake, $800 per hour afterwards. I mean, who is paying this?
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. I mean, that's his rates are simple. Those are his rates. Let me think, please let me know what you think. And if it's no surprise, you're a fascinating guy to talk to. If you're interested in meeting again under whatever circumstances you might prefer, please let me know. Like, what kind of email is that? The circumstances that you prefer? When do you all hear a doctor talk like that?
Exactly.
Epstein responds, y'all, in one of his emails with one word. You know what he said? Speak with a question mark?
I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Oh my goodness. So, and then of course he just throws money at everything because money is going to solve everything. So he responds to things like, I don't care. Find out if the school's going to pay, or no matter what, I'm going to pay all the difference. So he's like doing all of this stuff. Money's trying to shut everything down with money. And I'm like, this is just so shady. And then of course, oh, she's such a lovely person. It's such a pleasure. We're just checking in. All of these words, so it's kind of like all these things allegedly are really difficult to kind of see outside of a non-ulterior motive spotlight, knowing who this man is and what he did.
Yeah, and I mean, really, like you said in the beginning, it's like you're paying for somebody's medical care. So what does that entitle you to the information, right? Because the records clearly show that this doctor and Epstein maintained their correspondence about this woman's treatment, Eileen. I mean, he thanked Epstein for his confidence. You know, I absolutely believe that I know how to both understand and help her and will do my best. That's what he writes Epstein. You know, the doctor invites Epstein to call or email him anytime. And girl, in later emails, he sends an invoice and recounts his literal session with the woman.
That I thought those records were privileged.
Especially
those records are privileged.
When we're talking psychiatry, even. So, I mean, it just goes on. I mean, him and Epstein would exchange further notes in 2015, like you said, in 2016, and up to 2017, like you said, according to the DOJ records. I mean, checking in was the subject of an October 2016 email where literally the doctor sent it to Epstein. And he says, I hope that you are well. I'm not sure if you remember me. He reminds Epstein that I'm the psychiatrist who visited you about this time last year with the first doctor that we had talked about earlier. I mean, what? He then references his work with the woman. I mean, so you were just talking to Epstein and now a couple of months later, you're like, have to remind him of who you were. And he says he has believed he's been helpful. It has been helpful to her that he has been that one person.
So Shannon, so do we get in credentialing? Do we ask about behavioral health files? Like talk a little bit about credentialing and therapy.
Well, I mean, yeah, you know, in credentialing, again, it just depends on the facility and the accreditation. And so if there is that peer process, you know, there are interpersonal communication questions that are asked, you know, and they're rated usually from 1 to 5 or from excellent to below average. And, you know, in our facility, anything average or below, we really are asking, hey, confidentially privileged, tell me what's going on. You can even just talk to me over the phone and I'll summarize it up, because you know it's information is power. I think when you're credentialing, and that's something that's important that we all should know.
And facilities do expect physicians to maintain patient autonomy and confidentiality and independence from third-party control. And we do have to have HIPAA policies and strict releases. I mean, I, as a patient, when I log into a doctor's office, I have to sign, who do I allow to have access to my records?
100%. 100%. I mean, 100%.
Yeah. So then, okay. So, right. Credentialing, right. Unfortunately, right now, we try to make it proactive. We try to get everything we can before, but in reality, credentialing is reactive because it's going to respond to the things we find, things we see, like the lawsuits and the board action. So truly, the abuse of power really thrives before we get the end result of it, which is when the action was already taken.
Yeah. And that's the crazy part of this whole thing is that, you know, sometimes you're right. And prestigious armor, you know, titles, institutions, funding. I mean, you know, every time we come to you all with one of these episodes, we always are talking about how this is not a one-off. Like things don't just happen like this for 10 years, 20, 30 years. I mean, at that point, it is systemic.
Yes, and this is why MSPs matter because we are not paperwork processors. We are the ethical gatekeepers. We're the first ones that get that gut feeling before we present a file.
And this is why we paused the tea this week, you all. I hope you know, really were able to pull something from this episode because, you know, I just seen everything going on with the Epstein and I just, man, once I seen these doctors were getting involved, I'm like, Nylene, we have to talk about this because it's not just, you know, rich and powerful people. I mean, these are doctors that are seeing people as well. You know, gossip fades, you all, and documentation changes systems. And we're seeing right now, literally all this documentation is going to change a lot of stuff, you all. It's breaking. Truth is breaking free.
And this episode wasn't about tearing anyone down. We're not here to hurt doctors' practices or, you know, basically accuse them of something or not. We're just saying it was about asking the questions. Credentialing is often asked too late or doesn't ask at all.
I mean, if you're a facility, you have to strengthen disclosure requirements, you all. We have to revisit conflict of interest policies. And please, I mean, number one, don't worship prestige. I mean,
Number one. Yes. Say it again.
And if you're an MSP, you document everything. We all say CYA. Escalate when something feels off and trust your professional instincts over everything.
Yeah, and if you're listening as a patient, you're allowed to ask questions. You're allowed to expect transparency and just protect your records. You're allowed to say no. Somebody's not allowed to share my records.
And we'll be back to spilling the tea next week. We're really excited what we have coming up in the future. Today, we just had to follow the records because power hates documentation. And credentialing, baby, guess what? Credentialing remembers.
That was a whole nation's worth of tea, girl.
Ooh, and we are just getting started. More states, more scandals, and definitely more receipts.
And if you love the tea we're spilling, you gotta like, you gotta comment, follow us, share, do everything. Where can they do all that at, Nylene?
They can follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, on all the things. And share it because the tea is going coast to coast.
Oh, I love it. See you next time on Credentialing Chronicles. Remember, you got to stay credentialed, but not what?
Not canceled.